Hey guys, I'm a Forester here. Today I want to give you a short story about something that happened to me about 15 years ago. It never happened before and it hasn't happened since, but I'll remember it my whole life. It was a vision that I had. Now, from my reading about visions, they say that they can surpass the barriers of time, space, and they can also be so real as to overcome your senses. And all three of those things happened to me when I had this vision. So let me jump right into it and tell you what the vision was and when it occurred. So this was a family trip. My daughter was still living with us, so the three of us, my daughter, my wife, and myself, we were headed northwest on I-26, headed toward Morganton, North Carolina, where my mother lived. We were going to visit with her. And we were somewhere in the vicinity of Newberry, South Carolina, when the vision occurred. Now, like I say, it took me by surprise, but I was driving, and I was driving the car, and all of a sudden I had this visual image in my mind's eye, for lack of better phrase. It wasn't anything that was projected out in front, it was more in my mind's eye, but it was very clear. It was not a fuzzy image. And in the vision, so now I'll describe the vision. I was driving that very same car. I was on a country road and I was cresting a little hill. Didn't know where I was at the moment in the vision, but that became clear later. So I was cresting this hill and the valley came into view. There were some mountains off to the side, to the right, and then pasture on both sides of the road. And I recognized it as a very familiar scene, and I realized what it was. Those were the South Mountains, and this was a farm that my uncles had farmed growing up. So they farmed some land that was owned by our family doctor. He had some country land that he eventually built his house on. So there was a barn, there was his house, and as I drove further down the road in my vision, I saw a man's figure off on the side of the road on the right-hand side, and I recognized it as the family doctor. Now, he was elderly, and he looked like he was hot. This was a summer day. The grass was green, and I decided in my vision to pull off the road onto the side of the road and get out and talk to him. I felt like I needed to do that. I hadn't seen him in a long time. Now, this was the family doctor who delivered me as a baby. He was the first human being to ever hold me in his hands, and I had always been close to him. I had wanted to follow in his footsteps, and until I got to senior in high school, I think, I had planned to go into medicine and to be a family practitioner like this family doctor, and I won't name him in this video, but I'll just refer to him as the family doctor. So he had always meant a lot to me, and he had been a mentor of sorts. I had talked to him about my desire to go into medical practice, and he had said that he would support me in getting into medical school in any way he could. So I felt like I was pretty close to him, and I was happy in the vision to see him and have the opportunity to talk to him. So when I pulled over off the side of the road, I got out, and the smell of the grass just overwhelmed me in the vision. And that's why I say it overcame even my physical senses, because that was probably the most notable thing about the whole vision was the smell of the grass. It made it very real. And I got out, I went up to him, and I shook his hand. We stood there in the vision and talked for a while, and then, I got back in the car, said goodbye, and we drove off and continued on our way. Now that was the vision, and as the vision faded from my mind's eye, the smell of the grass faded also. When I refocused on the road, which this vision did not take long, I would think that it maybe took a minute to 2 minutes if I just had to guess. And as I refocused on the driving, the initial thing that I thought was, I got to check I didn't realize it was a vision, and I was looking from side to side to see if anybody was cutting grass, because I had smelled that grass so vividly that I thought, okay, somebody was cutting the grass and that's what I was smelling. There was nobody cutting grass anywhere along the interstate or in pastures on either side. So that was one clue that, wait, this was something different. And then I realized this is like a vision I've had. And I exclaimed to my wife and daughter in the car, I just had a vision. And I told them exactly what I've just told you. And they can both witness. I've asked them, do you remember this happening? And they did. So I continued on my way and wondering, why did I have this vision? The main thing that I was thinking about is, if this is really a vision, and if this is going to happen, should I stop on the side of the road? Should I stop at McDonald's or someplace like we normally do and get a cup of coffee, go to the restroom, take a break before we continue on? Or should I just plow through and drive as fast as I could? And what speed should I drive? Should I drive fast to get there so I don't miss the doctor? So anyway, I decided to just continue on just like I was driving, but not to stop. I didn't want to take a chance on missing him. So now this is not the vision, this is me actually driving. 2 hours later, I'm driving down Highway 64, headed toward my mother's home, and I come to the crest of that little hill. And I'm getting pretty anxious. I'm wondering, I'm not going to see. I've never seen the doctor on his property like that. I had nothing to think that he was going to be there, because I'd never seen him there before as we drove by. So I crested the hill. I came over the crest. There was the pastures. There were the mountains, just like they were in my vision. And I went on a little further to where I could see around a little bend. There was the doctor standing on the side of the road. He was wearing the clothes that I had seen in my vision. He looked old, he looked tired, and he looked hot. And he was weed eating just like he was in my vision. There was no doubt in my mind I was going to stop and talk to the doctor, and I almost just said his name. But I pulled off on the side of the road. I got out, and when I opened the door of the vehicle, the smell of the grass overwhelmed me, just like it did in the vision. Now, I got out, I walked up to him, and from that point on, in my vision that I had, I wasn't aware of what we were saying in the vision. So when it happened in real life, I was on my own. I didn't know what I was supposed to say from the vision. I just knew that we had stood there and talked a few minutes. So I shook his hand. He stopped working, came over, we shook, we said hello. I told him who I was, because it had been ages since I had seen him. I told him who I was, and he held my hand, and he was looking into my face. And he said, I know who you are. I can tell from your eyes. And we talked a little bit. I told him what he had meant to me growing up, how I had admired him, and that I wanted to follow in his footsteps. I told him about my career, what I had actually gone into, which I went into a specialty in forestry. I've always said I'm a forester, but I'm actually a forest geneticist, because I majored in graduate school in plant genetics, which, I'm basically a tree doctor. And so in a way you might say he did influence my career. But we talked a little bit more. This is in real life. And I said goodbye. I got in the vehicle. And as I drove away, I'm back into the vision. As I drove away, we waved goodbye. Now, that is the vision and what actually happened. But I wonder, why did I have that vision? And the only reason I can think was to prepare me for stopping and talking to him. Maybe he was having a bad day. He was elderly, and he died a few years after that. Maybe he was having a bad day. Maybe he needed some words of encouragement. But for whatever reason, that vision alerted me to the fact that I needed to stop and talk to him. It's never happened since, and it had never happened before. But I'm sure that that was some form of divine intervention that alerted me that I needed to stop and talk to the doctor. Have you ever had a vision? If you have, would you comment below and tell us about it? And if you want to comment on my vision, have at it. I would be interested in your take, because I don't really know why I had it either. Y'all take care, and I'll talk to you later.